Hi, my name is Jordan Blair, and I have chose to do my presentation on police brutality. And I know people may be wondering how this falls under a social problem, or but it is. It is seriously a social problem because with social media being so big today, it is on a daily basis where I will get on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any type of social media like that, and I will see someone sharing a photo, not a photo, but a video of a police officer tackling or getting physically rough with the individual that committed a crime or resisting arrest. And why is that? Why is it that we only see 30 seconds of this video? Nobody knows. People only see, people only see the bad in it. They don't see what the officer was going through before this person reacted the way that he did, or why the officer had to do what he did because the other person did something to make the officer feel uncomfortable and unsafe. There's the Black Lives Matter movement that's been going on for a couple years, or about a year and a half now, ever since the Ferguson shooting. It really took off then after Michael Brown was shot 5 times in the back. Was that police brutality? Our criminal justice system says no. Black Lives Matter movement says yes. There's all kinds of opinions about that particular instance. Was it in Baltimore? Was it in New York? Was it in Chicago? The one in Chicago was definitely police brutality. But social media only brings out the bad in the law enforcement officers. And the only thing is, the reason this is getting more and more and more violent is police officers do not feel safe when they are going to jobs or coming on scenes. The issue for this is that people are now afraid of law enforcement, and we shouldn't be. Yeah, people at our age, they don't like cops because we get in trouble or we get fines and stuff like that. But the thing is you got to look at it beyond that perspective. You got to look at it as the only thing they are trying to do is what's best for you. These laws are formed for our well-being, and people may not agree with them. Not every people's going to agree with them, and that's just how society is. Some is going to agree and some is not. But back to the people and why are we afraid of our police officers now? The social media, news stations, certain news stations. I watched 5 different episodes of police brutality on news stations. The Bill O'Reilly factor, which I could not agree more with what he does. That when he does his newscast and to show his viewers, he shows the viewers all the facts. He doesn't hide anything. He doesn't make his opinion involve in the other person's opinion. He wants the viewer to make his or hers own decision on the topic that he is talking about. And the video that I watched was about police brutality, and it was over the Ferguson protesters, the Black Lives Matter movement. And he was showing, everybody on other news stations, they were only getting the bad of what the officers were doing in Ferguson. Tear gas, shooting rubber bullets, taking cameras from anchors because they were not safe. I don't think people know at the time because the newscast was only showing certain parts of the protesters. These protesters were burning down public places for just to get a message across. These are sometimes family-owned businesses, or that has nothing to do with the protests, and they're getting burnt down. The police officers are just trying to make everyone that is not part of the protest safe, and sometimes that does take to certain measures. But the police officers that are doing these measures, it's not their fault. It's coming from upper management. They're not the ones making the calls. They are just doing what they are told. And if you're in a job, for instance, let's say you are working somewhere and your boss tells you to go do this. You may not agree with it, but are you going to tell them no? You don't tell a boss, no, I'm not going to do that. Yes, some people do, and some bosses respect it. But in this instance, for police officers, it's a direct order. You can't just say no or you're going to be fired or released. This plays a big issue in the political form. The reason I say that is it's a voting year. This is a voting year, and they try to get all the votes that they can get. And here is the thing: Bernie Sanders, for example, says that everyone has stopped believing in our criminal justice system. Is that true? Yes and no. Some people have, some people haven't. He says that we all police officers, all law enforcement officers, need to go and be retrained. Do I agree with that? Yes. If the only solution to this topic is body cameras, which some officer agencies have already informed the body camera, and some have not. The ones and the police brutality ones that you see on the news, it's those counties that have not enforced the body camera. And you are going against a police officer's word and the victim's word. Well, most of the time, you're going to get your police officers backing up the other police officers, and you're going to get your racial views on this particular victim with that sort of instance. And if it doesn't go in the victim's way, there's riots. But if a police officer gets shot, there's no riots. There's nothing hardly ever said, about it on the news. Yes, they'll have 1 day or 2 days about what happened. But with these brutalities like Ferguson, Baltimore, New York, Chicago, which, like I said before, I firmly believe the Chicago one was police brutality. They're on there for weeks. Weeks and a half, 2 weeks. And the news station is only showing the negative sides of law enforcement officers. I watched CNN. They showed a video of the Vietnam War and what protesters were doing then to try to stop the Vietnam War and what the police officers did. Beating them with clubs, shattering kneecaps with their clubs and stuff. That time and age is different than what this time and age is. It was different back then because that stuff, you could get away with that stuff. You can't get away with that stuff now. And we are comparing these law enforcement officers now to the ones back in the 70s and the 80s. It's a different time period. It's different type of people, different type of officers. Most of these officers, 45% of these officers, in the research that I did, and it came from policeblog.com, which I know is not a critical site, but 45% of these officers that are patrolling roads and stuff like that are vets, people coming back from wars. I believe that those people need to be retrained in the way that police officers are trained, because Marines and military officers are trained totally different than just local law enforcement officers. Marines and armies, they are trained to kill. Law enforcement officers aren't really trained to kill. They are trained to try to handle the situation in a calm and manner way. Military people are not. They are trained to whatever your instincts are and shoot to kill. The only solution, like I said, to this problem of this day and age is body cameras. Go and retrain all your officers if you have to. Yes, it will take money, and that's where all tax probably money will go to. Police brutality is never going to go away. You're never going to be able to stop that word from, hey, there's police brutality. You're never going to be able to stop that. But you can prevent some more, you can prevent less of it. There won't be as much shootings. You won't hear about it much often. And like I said in the video past with the Black Lives Matter movement, all lives matter in this situation. And I firmly believe the positives and negatives in this stereotype is there are the certain norms of this. People should go on ride-alongs. If they know a fellow officer, ask him to go on a ride-along with them. See what the daily basis and the daily routine is through some of these officers around your county or where you're from. Show the videos of the people of the country what each officer has to deal with on a nightly basis or a daily basis. How might, this would change so much to people's views if some would just show the good in officers, show videos. Why do we have to always be negative on the news about officers? These guys are, the only thing these guys are trying to do is protect us, or me, you, people out there in this country, in the world. They're just only they're trying to keep you safe and help your own well-being. And then every day I follow these Blue Lives Matter on social media, and they always post pictures on a daily basis of cops doing good. And they will show videos of cops doing bad too. They even it out. They even the playing field out for people to see, well, are these cops actually really bad, or are all cops bad? No, not all cops are bad, but the news station is making it out to be that all law enforcement are out to get you. No, they're out to help with your own well-being. And the people of this country should have the right to see what each officer goes through a night. I mean, yes, it's part of privacy and it breaks some laws, but why can't we change some of them? There's nothing wrong with change in this world. It changes perceptions of each individual, and if we can only get some respect for these law enforcement officers and what they do for us, it only make the world a better place. It really would. And that is all I have for you today. I hope you liked the presentation. Thank you. Have a great evening.